Toyota and Honda, two of the world's biggest automakers, aren't known for making flashy cars or high-end exotics. Quite the opposite. More often, they've been called boring. Even Honda's own designers have said so. Akio Toyoda, that company's chairman and scion of its founding family, was so frustrated with this he once demanded no more boring cars.
The word boring and the word Lexus would never be used in the same sentence again.
We were always seeing it sort of pedestrian, right? Like you buy a Camry, but it's not cool.
Despite the image, Toyota and Honda rule the used car lot.
What do you feel about $500?
Let's do this.
These two brands and their luxury divisions hold their values better than any other.
It matters a lot, and it is not something that Honda has been able to achieve overnight. We want to make sure that they've maintained their value above the rest of the competition.
This relentless pursuit of making sure that we're producing what customers want and that they're durable. We stay hyper-focused on that, and we don't take that for granted.
But their records aren't perfect, and on top of it, it's a chaotic time in automotive history, with EVs, software, upstart brands, and looming Chinese competition. So why do Toyota and Honda hold their value so well? And can they stay on top? Toyota has topped Kelley Blue Book's best resale value list 8 times since 2014, including the last 4 consecutive years. Lexus has won the group's award 5 times. 2024 is its 3rd consecutive. Lexus won the luxury category on J.D. Power's residual awards list.
The market tends to have much greater demand than Toyota supplies up front, which keeps resale high, which keeps consumers happy, and the cycle continues on and on.
Honda is another big winner. Among mainstream brands, it bested its Japanese rival in J.D. Power's ranking. Edmunds data shows overall Toyota and Honda are neck and neck, as are their higher-end Acura and Lexus brands. Honda's numbers are impressive, but Toyota's stand apart. It's the biggest automaker in the world, sells many more cars than Honda, and has a greater selection. For example, Honda doesn't have a full line of pickup trucks. Those typically have lackluster resale values, as they tend to be heavily incentivized and get beat up by owners. In addition, the higher volume means more supply that should drive down prices. Not in Toyota's case.
Toyota is the #1 selling nameplate in the United States automotive industry. Chevy, Ford kind of go back and forth between who's number 2. Toyota's 40% bigger than them.
Toyota, and in a slightly different way, rival Honda, have managed to get to this position without relying on some of the strategies other automakers resort to in order to sell cars, which can hurt a brand and drive down resale value. Automakers do 3 things to push volume when times are tough: incentives, fleet sales, and leasing. Take incentives. If you've ever heard that a car loses 10% in value as soon as you drive it off the lot, it's because most cars are sold with incentives, and the market factors that in when determining what your car is worth. When you do trade in your car at the dealership, the dealer is going to give you a price for it that assumes you got some kind of incentive, because chances are you have. Toyota offers very little in incentives. Honda says it spends about 23% less than rivals.
From a sales and production planning to manufacturing, we work very closely to make sure that we have enough inventory on dealer lots to sell, but not too much.
We don't spend a lot of incentives.
They seem to be pushing this incentives portion. That seems to make sense to me overall. But also this new versus used sentiment doesn't just exist in the automotive space. And so they seem to be oversimplifying it here for this segment, but I think an easy way of figuring this out is like if you went to Amazon right now and looked for a random product, there'd be a new price and then there'd be a used price. And obviously the used price is going to be lower, even if it was just something like Open Box, for instance, also drops the price just because it's been opened. Somebody has touched this product. You don't know what happened to it. It could be scratched. It could be dinged. But for an automobile, this is especially true. You don't know what they did to it. You don't know what happened to it. And also for an automobile, in some cases, you don't get to choose the color of that thing. Same thing with like an Open Box item, which is something's already been made for those specifications of the original purchaser, not to you as the secondhand or a secondary purchaser. And so those things obviously drop down in value, and you can see them even for other goods. But obviously cars are classically known for depreciating very quickly, but also because of how expensive they are, I think that there's again, I think there's probably a percentage drop, and I think you'd probably see a similar drop, 5 to 10% likely, for other goods. It's just much more noticeable when you're talking about a car that costs 50, 60,000 versus a book on Amazon that costs like 20, 30 bucks.
Of dollars relative to the industry, then you're going to have higher resale value because the demand that drives the new car side, it's going to drive the used car side.
Fleet sales is essentially bulk sales, like to rental companies or the government.
About 14% of Toyota's sales are fleet. Honda's are just 1.8. That's far lower than Ford, Chevrolet, and Chrysler.
Bulk sales usually come with discounts.
It's kind of like the incentive, but not quite the same. It lowers the transaction price overall of that.
A lot of fleet cars tend to have fewer bells and whistles, and their presence in the used market drives the brand's overall resale value down. Also, your buyer could decide to unload its whole fleet at once.
Well, that's one of the reasons Tesla's retention values are as low as they are. They can't control that aspect of it because they've sold a big chunk of vehicles into the marketplace.
And finally, leasing. Toyota is among the companies with the lowest level of it. That hasn't always been the case. Honda, on the other hand, is among the highest. Leases usually have lower payments than purchases. It's another tool automakers use to sell more cars. But if you over-rely on it, you add more vehicles to the used market when the lease is up. It's simple supply and demand.
Interesting thing with Toyota is we perhaps don't know how big Toyota could actually be because they are not really doing these sorts of activities to stoke demand artificially in the form of unnatural level of incentives or pushing out production to the fleet channel. Toyota tends to avoid a lot of these brand destroying activities, even as they're number one.
This is days supply, a way of measuring how much inventory a dealer has. You want that number to be low. Lower days supply means cars are selling faster. The three brands with the lowest numbers? Lexus, Toyota, and Honda.
Frankly, it's probably lower than I'm comfortable with. I'd like to have a few more days supply in stock, but managing that, not overbuilding, also impacts the long-term resale value of the products.
Our target is to make sure that the dealers have enough supply on dealer lots to sell in 1 month, and they're turning their inventory every month. And that will also go into how we're able to maintain our residual values because we're able to maintain the right mix of inventory, which is not an easy thing to do, and it's a constant challenge that we work on.
Here's days to turn, the number of days it takes to sell a car for a handful of mainstream US brands. Toyota is by far the lowest. Honda is third, barely edged out by Subaru. In addition to all this, these companies, especially Toyota, have strong reputations for quality, durability, and reliability. These three words even form a slogan at Toyota, often abbreviated as QDR.
The culture here is completely different at Toyota, and I think that's a huge competitive advantage. The QDR is the cornerstone, customer satisfaction and focus is the cornerstone, and we just relentlessly Kaizen. You know the term Kaizen, it's always trying to improve.
Quality and reliability helped it overcome early failures in the US market and win over a skeptical public.
When we came to the US, we built cars that weren't exactly what the US market wanted, and we had to go back and re-engineer our vehicles to make sure that they appealed to consumer tastes here.
Lexus and Toyota topped Consumer Reports' reliability ranking, with Mini in third place and Honda and Acura in fourth and fifth. In 2024, the group began ranking 5 to 10-year-old used cars, and Toyota and Lexus topped that list too. The Honda brands don't fare nearly as well in J.D. Power's dependability study, but Toyota and Lexus top it.
A lot of consumers are willing to pay more, both for the perception and the reality that a Toyota vehicle is not going to break down. There's examples of people driving their Lexuses and Toyotas well past 1 million miles. It is rare, but those vehicles can certainly go the distance.
These automakers are also the number 1 and number 2 sellers of hybrids in a market that can't get enough of them. It takes just 26 days for a dealer to sell a hybrid, compared with 58 days for the industry overall. Same with resale. 3-year-old used EVs hold 44% of their value, plain gas cars 65%, hybrids 72%. Automaker profits usually hover in the high single digits to low double digits range. Every automaker is tempted to build and sell just a few more units, but car makers' costs are high and mostly fixed. About 70% of the price of a vehicle goes to the direct cost of producing it, building the engine, stamping the sheet metal, keeping the factory lights on. 2/3 of what's left is eaten up by marketing, product development, and everything else. So, about 10% profit. If a company makes 1 million cars, profits don't flow until they've sold about 900,000.
You want to build one more. You want to sell one more because that's closer you get to nirvana, where the profits just start flowing in. But the challenge is if the demand isn't there.
That's where fleet comes in, incentivizing comes in, all kinds of things come into play.
What sets Toyota and Honda apart is they tend not to build cars they aren't sure they can sell.
So it's a tightrope walk in manufacturing, and nobody walks that better than Toyota.
The renowned Toyota production system especially is credited with introducing revolutionary manufacturing principles, including, among other things, concepts sometimes called lean manufacturing or just-in-time production. The idea: reduce waste of all kinds and improve efficiency as much as possible. Nothing is made until there is a need for it. That holds true through the entire chain.
So I just want to call out, lean manufacturing is actually a great concept. If I'm not mistaken, I'm fairly certain that this also led into kind of like lean, like software development. And I would highly encourage you. I think there's a book out on this, like The Toyota Way or something like that, I believe is the name of it. And it highlights the various types of waste that exist and basically trying to avoid it as much as possible. And there's different types of waste, like there's like material waste, there's also like waste from like quality, there's waste from like time, from people moving around, from people not knowing what they're supposed to be doing. And so they just kind of cover all these things. And I think it obviously exemplifies how much Toyota actually cares about these areas. And I would also encourage folks to read up about this if they are in the software domain or technology domain, because I think all of those things are true for other spaces as well and can help you think about how you think about your own processes and how work gets done in your own areas.
Toyota production system is probably the closest thing we have to a pull system still in the auto industry.
It's called a pull system because production is pulled by demand. The reputation for quality and durability also goes back to manufacturing. On a Toyota factory floor, for example, any employee can stop the assembly line by pulling a cord if they notice a defect. That allows the company to catch things early.
And they're making big investments in training every worker, every maintenance worker, every engineer in how to solve problems.
They also standardize designs. Even something as simple as the hood of a car will be designed similarly across models.
And when you standardize, you're making a larger volume, which reduces cost, but also you can fine-tune and work out any quality issues over years of practice. They will work on testing and retesting and fine-tuning the standard until it's almost perfect.
The company also moves slowly and thoroughly, even when it takes big leaps. It considered 80 different potential technologies for its hybrid powertrain on the original Prius. It doesn't stuff cars with features customers aren't asking for, so there is less pressure to include the latest and greatest. This is also true of Honda.
We've had a relentless focus on cost controls. Some brands may put a piece of equipment on a car because it's more profitable, right? And that just doesn't enter our mentality. It's what the customer wants and at what price.
You do risk losing customers to the latest and greatest, but by going with tried and true technology, it's really enabled them to say like, look, you might miss out on a few gadgets here and there, but we're going to build a vehicle that you know is going to go forever.
But that also means it rolls out new technology much later than competitors.
Toyota's been criticized for this in the past, even Honda, that they're not jumping right into, full EV.
Toyota and Honda buyers are the most loyal. That said, their records do have a few blemishes.
They're not perfect. No one is.
There has been a widening scandal over falsified safety check data in Japan. Toyota and Honda have been swept up into it. Honda said in February it will have to recall 750,000 vehicles over faulty airbags. Toyota will replace engines in over 100,000 Tundra and Lexus LX SUVs.
Tacoma, the most legendary resale values, durability where you just run into a rock, it'll be fine. Transmission recall, complete replacement. Toyota's V6 twin turbo, recalling the engines, right? So we're talking about major component failures. And this is where you start to see maybe some consumers might start to break.
But the transition to EVs, while rocky, won't stop. And Toyota's reputation for moving slowly has earned it criticism.
Toyota was long the leader, known for alternative powertrains. They more or less invented the hybrid industry as we know it today, bringing the original Prius to market and continuing to iterate on that technology. And yet a new technology came around and they're a laggard in EV transition.
The brand has only two EVs, the BZ4X and the Lexus RZ. The BZ4X rollout was by many accounts a disaster.
They literally had the wheels falling off. They had a stop sale on the BZ4X, and that was kind of like, of all brands.
Younger buyers are a bit less brand loyal than previous generations, and right now many say the future is basically anyone's game. Any incumbent, no matter how well run or beloved, faces threats.
The variation now in ideas and innovation that has come to the auto industry is, I think, on a scale we haven't seen before. And with that means the winners and losers are not always guaranteed.
One of the strengths of Chinese manufacturers, for example, is their ability to move very quickly. They can release new versions of vehicles within a year or two of the previous model, a fraction of the typical time it takes automakers in developed markets. Even new non-Chinese automakers such as Tesla and Rivian have an advantage: the rise of the software-defined vehicle, which allows automakers to update features remotely.
We have cars that are fun, that are cool, that are interesting. And I think that's been a huge benefit to us, particularly over the last 15 years. You know, I have full faith and confidence in our company that we'll figure it out and make sure that we stay focused on the customer, and the rest of it will work itself out. But it's going to be a big challenge.
Thank you for watching. If you liked what you saw, please hit like or subscribe. I will see you around.